Diana's death, William's openness feels like a healing corrective, a fulfillment of his mother's empathetic legacy. It reassures the public that the monarch of tomorrow will lead with a heart as well as a scepter. This path is not without its perils. The line between relatable vulnerability and overexposure is razor thin. The monarchy's power rests partly on mystery, on a degree of dignified remove. William and his advisors must navigate this with immense care. His revelations are always carefully calibrated, enough to connect, but not so much as to shatter the necessary mystique of sovereignty. He shares the experience of emotion, but not the unfiltered, chaotic depths that might compromise his position as a neutral, stable head of state. The challenge for William, as he moves closer to the throne, will be to maintain this authentic connection amidst the increasing weight and isolation of kingship. Can he continue to share his emotional truth when his every word becomes a matter of state? The early signs suggest that this empathetic style is not a temporary tactic, but the core of his philosophy. He is building a monarchy where duty includes the duty to care visibly, and service includes the service of showing one's own humanity as a way of strengthening others. In the end, the tears of Prince William are more than personal expressions. They are symbolic irrigation. They water the parched formal ground of an ancient institution, allowing something new and vital to grow. They signal a monarchy striving not just to endure, but to understand. Not just to reign, but to relate. In touching millions, these emotional updates do not weaken the crown. They're laying the foundation for its most crucial modern asset, a bond of genuine human trust, forged not in silent ceremony, but in the courageous, shared language of the heart. The future king is learning that sometimes the strongest thing a leader can do is to gently and publicly let fall the armor. And in doing so, he is building a monarchy that for the first time in centuries truly feels equipped to lead not just a nation, but a people. The image is seared into the global consciousness. The future king of England, shoulders slightly bowed, standing before a sea of floral tributes to his mother. A single public tear traces a path down his cheek, a moment of unscripted human fracture in the meticulously choreographed life of a royal. For decades, such glimpses of profound emotion from the men of the House of Windsor were rare, often interpreted as signs of weakness in an institution built on the stoic pillars of duty, honor, country. Yet today, Prince William's emotional updates, whether speaking on the loneliness of bereavement, the pressures of fatherhood, or the weight of his future role, do not diminish his stature. Instead, they forge a connection that touches millions, signaling a radical and necessary evolution of the monarchy itself. This is not merely about a prince shedding tears, it is about the dissolution of a centuries-old emotional armor. To understand the seismic impact of William's vulnerability, we must journey through the inherited silence of his lineage, examine the catalytic tragedies that forced a new dialogue, and explore how his conscious choice to embrace a more empathetic model of leadership is resonating in a world starved for authentic human connection. The British monarchy's relationship with public emotion has long been one of rigorous management. For generations, the royal model could well have been never explain, never complain, a philosophy that extended to the most intimate realms of the heart. Queen Victoria's protracted, secluded grief for Prince Albert was an anomaly, a testament to her absolute power to mourn. More typical was the model exemplified by King George VI, William's great-grandfather, who battled a crippling stammer but projected a bulwark of rigid determination during WWI, his private anguish only revealed decades later through biographical portrayals. This stoicism was a performance of stability. In a world shaken by war and upheaval, the crown presented itself as an unchanging rock, and emotion was a destabilizing force. The emotions of royalty were to be those of ceremony, dignified smiles at ribbon cuttings, of solemn nods at memorials. Personal grief, anxiety, or doubt were locked away in private apartments, discussed only in hushed tones by courtiers. The public saw the crown, not the person wearing it. The emotional landscape of William's direct upbringing was profoundly shaped by this tradition. His parents, Charles and Diana, presented a stark dichotomy. Charles, reared in the old school, often appeared formal and emotionally restrained, his passions channeled into plants and architecture. Diana, the people's princess, revolutionized the royal playbook by wearing her heart on her sleeve. She spoke openly of bulimia, postpartum depression, and the profound isolation of her life within the palace walls. She hugged AIDS patients, sat with the dying, and cried in public. The world connected with her not in spite of her emotions, but because of them. Young William was the inheritor of both legacies, the formal, dutiful tradition of the crown and the radically empathetic, emotionally expressive approach of his mother. His childhood was thus a masterclass in emotional dissonance, a tension that would define his future path. The sudden, brutal loss of Diana in 1997 was not just a family tragedy. It was a global moment of collective shock and mourning that forced the monarchy into an emotional confrontation it was desperately unprepared for. The infamous silence from Balmoral, the initial refusal to lower the flag, and the perceived coldness of the institution sparked a massive public backlash. The people demanded to see grief, to see that she mattered. The royal family was compelled to adapt, to step onto the balcony of public sentiment. The sight of a 15-year-old William, head bowed, walking behind his mother's coffin with his brother and father, is an indelible image of traumatic duty. He was, in that moment, the ultimate embodiment of the conflict between private agony and public expectation. He later admitted that the walk was one of the hardest things he had ever done, a personal horror made global spectacle. This experience taught him a brutal but vital lesson. In the modern age, the public's demand for authenticity could no longer be ignored. The old stoicism could be perceived not as strength, but as indifference. Decades later, another loss would deepen this understanding. The death of his grandfather, Prince Philip, in 2021, and the subsequent passing of his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, in 2022, were losses both familial and institutional. In his tributes, William's emotional language became more nuanced, more revealing. Speaking of the Queen, he didn't just praise her service, he spoke of the void she left at the family table, of his children missing their Gan-Gan. He shared personal anecdotes that painted a picture of a loving, mischievous grandmother, not just a sovereign. This was grief human-scaled, relatable to anyone who has lost a beloved elder. These cumulative losses served as catalyst, breaking open the shell of mandated reserve. They gave William, now a mature man and the father himself, the painful but necessary material to redefine what royal communication could be. The new blueprint: fatherhood, mental health, and purposeful vulnerability. Prince William's emotional updates are not random outbursts. They are strategic, purposeful, and deeply tied to his core advocacies, creating a powerful synergy between the personal and the philanthropic. Fatherhood as a gateway to vulnerability. William frequently frames his emotional insights through the lens of being a parent. He has spoken about the overwhelming love and the terror of holding his firstborn, George. He discussed feeling utterly helpless watching his wife, Catherine, suffer from severe morning sickness. By sharing these universal parental anxieties, he immediately bridges the vast social divide between palace and public. His involvement in initiatives like BBC's Mother Tongue Project, where he spoke about the emotional roller coaster of early fatherhood, positions him not as a distant figurehead, but as a dad in the trenches, navigating the same fears and joys as millions of others. This paternal vulnerability is perhaps the most disarming and effective tool in his modernizing arsenal. Alongside his brother, Prince Harry, William founded the Heads Together campaign, a watershed moment for royal engagement with psychological well-being. Here, his emotional updates transition from reactive, to grief, to proactive and advocacy-driven. He has spoken about the particular pressure of his role, the anxiety he feels about the future, and the importance of not bottling things up. At a launch event for a mental health text line, he shared his own experiences as an air ambulance pilot, confronting the enormous sadness of the job. This is no longer just about sharing grief, it is about modeling emotional intelligence and resilience. He uses his platform not just to say it's okay to talk, but to demonstrate how to talk, lending his immense credibility to destigmatize struggles that touch every family. The integration of duty and empathy. Williams' public engagements now feature a deeper, more emotionally attentive tone. Visiting a homelessness project, he doesn't just tour facilities, he sits for extended, private conversations, speaking afterwards of the complex stories and resilience he witnessed, often with a palpable sense of moved reflection. After the Manchester Arena bombing, his words to first responders were notably personal. "What you saw that night, nobody should have to see." He acknowledges the trauma of others in a way that feels validating and shared, not merely observational. The resonance, why it touches millions in a digital age. In an era of curated Instagram feeds and performative online personas, Williams' brand of measured vulnerability cuts through the noise. The public, particularly younger generations, possess a finely tuned detector for authenticity. They have witnessed the unraveling of curated images in real time across every sphere of celebrity. What they crave, and what William provides, is a sense of relatable truth. His emotional updates offer a powerful narrative of integrated strength. He is not weak because he cries, he is strong because he has the confidence to feel, to mourn, to admit fear, and to continue his duty with that emotional weight integrated into his person. This refutes the toxic, outdated notion that masculinity and leadership are devoid of softness. Furthermore, in a world facing polycrisis, pandemic recovery, climate anxiety, geopolitical strife, the figure of a future king who openly addresses loneliness, pressure, and grief creates a profound sense of shared humanity. It democratizes emotion. If the man born to wear a crown can feel adrift or heartbroken, it validates the complex emotional lives of his future subjects. It tells people, you are not alone in your struggle, a message of immense therapeutic value.